here, and then what else? Most importantly, spiritual life after college or church life or different ways that they're just individual, personal walk with God. And then what is your commuting like? How do you redeem that time? Or it could be, and then probably one of the most important aspect is like, what is your dating life looking like? I think that's what people here want to hear the most. Okay, so that's what we will go through. Okay, but so we prayed, and then what I like to do is first allow the panel members here. There are lots of alums here in our midst, but then these have been selected by the current officers. They are the ones who reply that they're coming, and then based on that, these people have been chosen, selected, predestined to serve in this manner. So here we go, starting with the wisest person. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Let me grab these microphones so that I don't pass this around. Rachel, you can share this. So that way people can hear in the back. Starting with this brother, tell us your name and then where you live and what you do, just as much as the news folks or people do not know you may get to know you a little bit. Tell us, self-introduction time.
So I'm Kyo. I'm not going to say my age right now because he said to guess, but I live in Alexandria. I'm an IT consultant, federal, so government consulting.
What did you major undergrad?
I was an economics and psychology double major with a statistics minor.
My name's Andy. I'm class of 2018. I live in Centerville, Virginia with my parents. I'm a software developer. I write code for a small company in Ashburn, and I go to Christ Central Presbyterian Church in Centerville, Virginia. So, shout out.
So, what was your major undergrad?
I was computer science.
College or engineering? In the college, okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel O. I'm also the class of 2018. During my undergrad, I studied foreign affairs. I dropped YSI. I'm proud of it. Currently, I live in Woodbridge, also with my family, and I commute to DC every morning. I work as a legal assistant for a law firm there.
Go Woodbridge!
I thought we're not saying our year, but okay. I'm Lauren. I graduated last year, so in May, basically, so not even a year ago. I live in Centerville, but my parents moved to... Oh, wait, I do live in Centerville. Okay, yeah, I live in Centerville, but my parents moved to Korea 3 years ago, so I live on my own right now. And I work, what I do. I'm a project analyst for marketing, but my major was sociology.
Great. Can we give a round of applause at the get-go? So, what do you think? Now that you're here, you haven't been here for a while, some of you, and then this like after a number of years for some of you here, one or two of you, and then as you reminisce the times in the back, anything that really stands out, like, oh, I miss these are changed at UVA, or these are the things that I miss the most. Andy, what do you think? Yeah.
So today I came down with my girlfriend and some friends, and we ate al carbone, which was so good because we haven't had that in a long time. And as we were walking around grounds, like the one thing that we noticed is like campus is so nice here. And then I clarified for other people that we're talking about the campus, but yeah, especially Christy, she goes to Temple now, so she was saying how it's a much nicer campus here than Temple. But yeah, I miss that, and al carbone too.
That's a Peruvian chicken place across from the Lowe's, okay? Great. Okay, what about you, Kyo? Anything that like nostalgia, any like a memory lane? Yeah.
Alright, so everyone said their name, so or name each. So I graduated in 2015, so I don't know any of you guys. Except for Nikki, so that's why I'm here. So it's been 4.5 years since I graduated, so it's been a long time. I think more than like coming back on grounds, it's like worshiping with like a whole bunch of people, like new college folks. I really miss that, like worshiping every Friday and Sunday with a whole bunch of people. Because right now the church I go to is a smaller church, not like CCPC. So yeah, it was nice like worshiping. So yeah.
Great. How about you, Rachel? Even though you're still a recent graduate, yeah?
This is gonna sound really weird. In DC, it's really hard to find public restrooms. So I actually miss, like if I have to go to the bathroom, I'm walking in the middle of the lawn, I can go to Cabell, go to the bathroom. But you can't do that so easily in DC, so if I leave my office, I leave my office and I have to wait till I get back, so. I miss the open restrooms.
Thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable and transparent, okay? All right? Anything that you graduated this past May? Lauren, what about you?
I think it's so encouraging to see that the fellowship sustains without you. It just, people are still growing, and honestly, that's really encouraging to see that, because I feel like, I don't know, I think it's just like encouraging to know that God is working in the midst even when you're not present. And I miss I don't miss the construction here, that's always here, but I do miss just Charlottesville itself. It's always just so pretty, especially fall, so it's nice to be back.
We're gonna go into the one area that a lot of current fourth years and maybe some third years, as they are thinking about the future directions, they are struggling with. We're gonna tackle this one big area. I've been talking to a lot of students who come to me for advice and prayer too. But tell us how you ended up with the job you have, and words of advice, practical or like some assuring, or can you offer those thoughts? So let's get that huge rock out of the way, the boulder out of the way in our midst. That often is kind of like a haze that is like laying upon a lot of upper class students here. Maybe starting with Lauren, how did you end up with that job, and in what ways do you think what words of comfort or advice or practical tips can you offer to the folks here?
I ultimately really, and I'm not just saying this to be general, but I know it's a fact that God gave me this job. My GPA was lower than what it said that the requirement was when I applied. I'm a sociology major, guys, and so it doesn't get more clear than that. That I'm wow, really, God ultimately does place you where He wants you, and I think before even going further than that, just being reminded that that is true, and that is the best place to be. I think that's the first reminder before even pursuing the rest. Beyond that, I think for me, how I ended up with the job was a lot more of my hobbies. I did a lot of graphic design just for fun, and then I was part of CAM, and so it was just little things.
So creative
arts ministry.
In GCF, okay.
Which I heard is flourishing. And so I think it's just cool how God really does use everything. He does not waste anything. And so something like that, and also actually my job right now is not so much on the creative side though. It's actually a lot what I did as small group coordinator. And so it's just funny how God works in that way, that the skills that I learned just from serving actually come into play in your work. And so I think those are the biggest things that I guess I could think of right now. The other thing is, so because of that, because He uses everything, be intentional with everything you do, because if I didn't take, let's just say, small group coordinating seriously, I wouldn't have learned anything. And so it was just kind of because I was able to focus and work in that area, then I was able to apply that later in my job. But if I didn't care about even coming to class on time, I think it's already hard. You can't just skip work because you just don't feel like it. You get fired. You can't sleep at work because you'll get fired. And so it's a lot of habits that I think I'm still working on, but it would have been a lot nicer if we started a little bit earlier working on those things.
Developing good work habits. And what Lauren said, I hope it was encouraging to all of you, and especially to Joanne Yoon, who is a current small group coordinator. But anyway, any of you, Rachel, Andy, or Hyung, any words of comfort, advice, or practical tips to the upper class people who are worried about or concerned about their future career, getting jobs or applying or interviews?
So I don't know how practical people might want to understand this to be, but I started applying for jobs November of my 4th year. So that semester I started applying, and I applied all throughout until graduation, meaning I didn't get anything. And during that time, I had to pray and fast a lot, just kind of petitioning my own case before God. Personally, I didn't want a job. I didn't want to work. I didn't want to leave GCF. I didn't want to leave Pastor IJ. It was just too good to leave. I was thinking maybe I should serve servants ministry for a year. I took into a lot of consideration, maybe go to missions for a year, but a lot of it was kind of out of selfish reasons, and God knew that very transparently. So God being God, He played it a little close to the edge for me. I graduated Saturday. I went home Sunday, and I got an interview Monday. And I went into DC going into that interview, and I didn't want the job, which is the job I have. And I was telling God, like, I don't want a job. I don't know how to explain that to you, but I don't want a job. I would like to do ministry work. I want to do ministry work. I don't want to be here. And my dad was driving me into DC, and he was just saying, look, Rachel, just keep your hands open. And you've been praying, but I think you've been very selfish while you were praying, and allow God to have a say in what you want. So I went into the interview, and they asked me a lot of non-job questions, like, oh, what are your hobbies? You sing? Do you think you can do karaoke night? All these things that didn't relate.
This is a prestigious law firm, though, right?
Yes, this is a very prestigious law firm. I had 3 attorneys, very well high-achieved attorneys, and they were just asking me these most random questions, and at the end of the interview, I was like, wow, that was kind of fun. And I got a call an hour later saying, do you want the job? That being said, I wasn't looking for it, but ultimately I just wanted to be with God the best way I knew, and the best way I knew was through serving. But God really had to take me out of that comfort to know, you can do my work, you can be with me wherever I take you, And so practically, I would say pray. Pray like your life depended on it, because the more you pray, the more God can actually help you be guided to that route. I'm not saying that He won't take you there if you don't, but that communication is best to have.
Okay.
I'll just say one quick thing. So just for my context, I interned with a company, and then they offered me a full-time job, and that's kind of how I started. But now I'm kind of also on the recruiting side of things for my company, so I actually conduct interviews for UVA students as well. And you'd be surprised about how many qualified candidates there are that just don't know how to interview. So do take advantage of the Career Center, and I think one thing that I think I should have done is actually practice interviews with my roommates, because even though that'd be awkward, I feel like that's actually a really good practice tool that you can do, just actually going through questions. Tell me about a time you worked on a team or something like that. People have terrible answers, so don't assume that you're good at interviewing, and go to those resources. I think they're all helpful to actually interview well.
Just one comment is a good number of you are thinking about going to professional schools, medical schools, or dental schools. You also need to practice those interviews, kind of do a mock interview. That's often very helpful as well. I know a lot of smart GCF students who just do not do good interviews, and they get always placed on waiting lists because so what did you say? I find out oh, I can't believe you said that. But then that's something that is worthwhile to do, and then just wanted to add that. Okay, anything, Kyo? But by the way, thank you, Andy. That was good. Yeah.
So for I guess 4 years right now, looking for a job. So for me, I never interned in my in the summers because I just couldn't get an internship due to my econ and psych double major. Like no one wanted an econ major. So going into fourth year, I was pretty worried, and I just applied everywhere. And I got so I'm not sure if you guys still have it. So like you apply for an on-ground interview, and then you can be selected as an alternate. So I got selected as an alternate, and I was like, oh shoot, this is like my only shot, and I'm an alternate right now. And then a couple days later, I found out I got placed on. I actually got the interview, and so through that, interview was whatever. But like you mentioned, actually practicing and with people is very helpful. Practicing with roommates, but also like for analyst positions, you're gonna get a lot of behavioral questions, like how you perform in project settings, on how you handle like difficult decisions. So they're gonna ask you questions like that. So always have like a couple examples in the back of your mind. Write them down, practice it. Like they're gonna ask you what do you think your greatest strength or greatest weakness. Have something in mind so that you don't stumble. Just practice. It's all about confidence too. So I'm currently interviewing for other jobs right now. It's eye contact, good handshake, all the basic things, but like you have to sound confident. Like you have to know what you're talking about, or seem like you know what you're talking about. So just a lot of practice. And if you read something on your resume, be ready to talk about it because they're gonna ask you. So yeah, just a practical advice. If you have any questions, just let me know. At least for like IT consulting, like interviews, I can give you more advice on that.
Class of 15. Have you had just one job so far, or have you switched around already?
I am currently in my second company, looking to change to my third.
Yeah. And that's very common. Back in old days, you work for one company, you stay there till you retire, but whereas every 2-3 years, or less, people switch jobs. That's very common. But make sure you, have a good rapport with your coworkers and especially your bosses, because a lot of times new places ask those old bosses for reference and things of that nature too. Okay. Any other stuff? Anybody questions about the jobs or career, like related to this particular topic? Okay, go ahead, Michael. Yeah, could you speak up? Yeah.
When you guys were first years, what did you guys want to do?
I was pre-com, I took accounting, got a C, and then dropped out of pre-com. So that's honestly, I was pre-com.
First year, I just wanted to make friends.
I was like Andy. I was pre-com. Got a C in accounting. Went through and then I couldn't do the last, I couldn't do one more class of all the prerequisites, so I had to drop. And then I tried for YSI. Rachel really discouraged me from it. Applied anyway and didn't make it, and then I applied. You said you hated it, you're dropping out. You're dropping out as I was applying. I was like, And then I applied for media studies and didn't get it. And so then my advisor told me I could only be a psychology or religious studies major. And it was just like a whirlwind of things. And then I ended up with sociology, which ended up being the best decision because my grades honestly transformed because it was a class that I actually liked, but it was not one that I was willing to give a try until really, I felt like I had no choice. So I didn't declare till mid-third year, which was, when they say declare by third year, I thought it was a suggestion, and then they told me no, you can't be a student, and I was like, what type of school is this? You actually had to declare? I was like, Virginia Tech gets super seniors, and they're like, no, you have to graduate in 4 years. Got you something, but really, it was not my plan. My plan was to take over Disney, and I genuinely believe I could do it. But God had different plans, and they're so much better.
Yeah, I was just really thankful to be in UVA. So I tried every class. I went to math, I went to psychology, I did biostat, I did music, never took any econ classes. Yeah, I regretted all of those, and then I went to foreign affairs, so it was easier.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience concerning like, career related questions, job searching? Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe, go ahead, Stephen, yeah.
How do you feel like you're glorifying God in your career and your life choices? Is it something that kind of show like how you like to glorify God in GCF and school?
I actually read a book recently called Courage and Calling. I forgot who it's by, but it's about like vocation and like how to glorify God at work and what that looks like in different life stages. And obviously like in the working life stage. It's just being, so when you get to the workforce, you're gonna meet a whole variety of people. And a lot of people are lazy, a lot of people don't do good work, they like, cheat their way through work and like things like that. But one way to glorify God, I think, is just be honest in your work, be diligent, and yeah. So that's how I've approached it. Just be given what God has given me, like in my current state, do the best I can, knowing that this is my calling as of now. But also in other ways, like I mentioned, you meet a lot of other people. Like in IT consulting, there's a lot of Middle Eastern people, so I've made a lot of coworkers that are Muslim friends that I've gotten close to, like just reaching out to them, getting conversations started, and things like that. Just being like a nice person, because you're gonna meet a lot of people that are not nice in the workforce, like very toxic people. But even when they treat you badly, it's not like you retaliate. You just show God's grace and mercy. Yeah, that way.
Good stuff. Is anyone taking notes? Like maybe one or two people, you could describe. This was good. Thank you, Guillaume. All right.
Yeah, I just ditto with him. So I ditto what he said.
He said ditto, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would first go off of the integrity. Start with school. Have integrity in your school, because habits again will just get easier and easier. And so if you're cheating your way right now through school, if you are trying to help each other to get to the top, that's not going to stop once you get a job. And it just the consequences get heavier and it's harder to stop. And so really it's so easy, even at work, being honest with your hours, whether you're putting it in or I'm supposed to be there for 8 hours, but it's so easy to just want to leave early because I see other people leave early, and just little things like that too, later bigger things, start. I really would encourage you to start now, because there's so many people who cheat their way, and it does not, it's not good for you, and it's not good for what other people see as well. The other thing is work gossip is very real, and that can look like complaining. Think about right now, you guys complain about your professors and it's so easy, but the most discouraging thing for me, because I'm just starting, is seeing other people talk with their manager and their boss, and once they leave just start talking about them. I think for me that is so scary, because it is so easy. It's so easy to get off the phone with a client and start complaining to your coworkers, and really that's how people bond. And I think it becomes very toxic that even if you don't partake, you're surrounded by that, and it really does affect you more than you realize. So I think learning to be willing to stand away, not partake in that. Again, that starts now, because I realize that is also, they are made in the image of God. They are God's children too. And when we talk like that, we are not just slandering them, we are murdering God through our words, through insulting other people like that. And so, yeah, that's one thing I wrote in our survey, global survey. I was can you please start talking about gossip and this? I don't know if they'll take that seriously, but I don't know. That's just something that's been really weighing on my heart.
Yeah, I would second Lauren's. In the law field, it's kind of an older business, a lot of older folk, and kind of like what Keong mentioned, they're extremely toxic people. I mean, they're not the young kids that have come out of college a couple years ago, but they're the ones that have been kind of grown up into the toxic industry, and they reap a lot of toxicity throughout the office. So personally, I stay out of it. I didn't realize how toxic slander and gossip was until I stepped out of GCF. So I remember, during ministry meetings and during prayer meetings, we talk about, let's really do our best not to gossip, or let's encourage other people not to gossip, because even within a Christian fellowship, people get hurt left and right because of things other people say. So that being said, I actually confront coworkers at times, especially the ones that come to me. So personally, I'm not an extremely nice person. I believe that Christianity does not breed niceness. It's not a requirement of Christianity, but it's kind of like a byproduct of Christianity. Yes, you are to be kind to fellow people and to your coworkers, but for me, I'm a bit more of I put my foot down. So for example, there was an individual who kind of just stops you wherever you're walking, and she just gossips with you. So if you just happen to lay in your path, you're like, gosh, I gotta get out. Like, you just want to kind of slither past her, like blend in with the wall, I don't know. She's really nice, but she just complains all the time, gossips about every single person. She had a current situation where she was extremely bitter towards her attorney, and she pulled me aside. I just happened to be there heating up my tea, and she pulls me aside. Can you believe he was doing this? Can you believe he did that to me? And this is an exact thing that I did, and I went, I'll just say her name was Andy. Andy, you don't speak very kindly about a single person in this office. And I just kind of heated up my tea, was brewing my tea. And I mean, this is a true story. It happened a couple of weeks ago, and she was confused. But I said it with a smile. You really don't, you know that. And I just went back to my tea, and she was like, and then she went off to her coworker that was sitting next to her. Can you believe what Rachel said about me? Rachel said that I don't speak kindly about. That person came to me and said, can you believe what she said about you? And I was like, this was the whole point. But and it's comical. It's comical when I talk about it. But in the moment, it's kind of like Lauren said. Like, I get really. Sorry, Pastor RJ, I get pissed when people kind of just go off like that, and it really irks me because they don't say a single word of kindness or encouragement to anybody, and you have no idea. I mean, when God created the world, it was through His words. Like, words are so powerful, and if I grew up in the church learning anything, pastors speak. We speak to one another. We pray. We sing. Everything's communicated through your lips, and if your tongue is saying things that can cut someone and also encourage someone, you really got to do some self-reflection there. It's a double-edged sword, and seriously, when the Bible says that, we have to take that word for word. So I kind of try to practice it. Maybe I shouldn't have said those things to her, but she's still kind to me. She's still nice to me. I still maintain the relationship, you know what I mean? I won't leave her dry, I'll still say, hello, good morning, Andy, how are you, And we still have a good relationship, nothing toxic. It's just sometimes I needed to confront people, and you do it with a gentle smile.
Thank you. Good stuff. Yeah. Any other questions? Tim, do you still have a question? Shall we move on? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else has a question? Career, profession, work life?
Well, I guess also glorifying God, not just even before you go to work and after you go to work. I think that's also like another thing. Like, you can be at work, you can be present, and then you can, like, when you clock out, you mentally clock out kind of thing. And so honestly, for me, that was really tested through, what is it called, commute. I think I've always heard about it. People, like, that's actually what coworkers love to talk. If they can't gossip, they'll be, I drove this long, like this many, and they're like, I feel you, and then that's like how you bond and become friends with them. And so I think I really was like, God help me let commute be a sanctifying time when I'm sitting, like I live in Centerville and my office is in Tyson's and it's supposed to be 30 minutes, but God, if I don't think I'm a sinner, just be on the road. And I'm like, man, God, we are all sinners. like you complain about someone cut you off and then you do the same. It's just like a messy cycle. And so really I'm like, wow, this is sin right on the road. Because like it's so hard. It's so hard because honestly, like when I drive and someone I feel wronged, I don't see them as an individual. I see the car and I just see them like almost like a video game. It's like they're not a person. And so just like the same way of trying to honor people at work, it's like the same thing on the road because it's really easy to be like, I don't know them and there's a distance. But actually, I think one time I think I cut off my pastor at like, I don't know, it was like, and that really humbled me too. I was like, man, you just don't know who's on the road. I mean, so with that mindset, it's like, oh, but because I care that, oh, that's someone I know, why don't I do that with someone like, that's also just as much of an equal. So I think the first 2 weeks, I tried to like suck it up, and then one day, literally, it just, out of nowhere, I just blew up because I was just so angry. Like, I left work early to go to a doctor appointment, and I like left an hour early, and I was an hour late, and I was just like, so mad. I was like, God, the one time, like I'm trying to be early, man, like this is hard. Like anyone who knows me, like that is hard. And so I'm just like, I'm trying my best here, and you who can do all things can't just make traffic go a little, like a little bit like faster, like 10 minutes more added on my GPS. And it's just like every time I complain, 10 more minutes got added. I was just so angry to the point, like I cried. Like when you're so frustrated, you cry. Like that's like something like traffic can bring out, which then made me realize it wasn't just traffic, it was actually a lot of things building up that it just happened to be traffic that just allowed me to like see what was already in my heart and how much burden I was holding. And so I think after that moment, like I actually really enjoy my commutes. I really am thankful that I do have my car, that I can pray, I can praise, I can like listen to sermons, because I remember Pastor Isaac said another alum did that, and I really been enjoying that time. And yeah, sometimes like I get to work and I'm like, oh, but like I'm not done with the sermon. Like, I don't know. It's just like I realize it doesn't have to be as. I think once I accepted that it's going to be this amount of time, like I was able to just move forward instead of being having false expectations. Yeah, traffic's very unpredictable, so I think I'm trying to learn to sanctify myself.
Great, thank you. Thanks for being so real. Yeah. Any other questions? Work related? Okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Jay? Yeah. Oh, sorry, Lindsay, I'm sorry.
So, like, if you have, like an offer or, like, a job that you can go to, but you don't know if, like, you should settle for that or, like, you should go for more, like, what should you do? Or, like, should you, like, listen to yourself or, like, do you know, like, how to listen to God? Or, like, is it being greedy to, like, try to achieve more than, like, what you have?
So I didn't have that problem when I worked here because I just took the first job I got because I was like, God gave me this, I can't let it go. But right now, as I'm looking for another company, I'm kind of currently in that situation right now. Like offers, like a couple offers, and like there's no company being very pushy. You just accept the offer, like we're the best company, like you're the right fit for us. But I would say like even through this process, there are a lot of companies out there. A lot of different work cultures, like difference between like big companies, small companies, mid-sized companies, and like the different cultures in between that. Like you want to work 40 hours, you want to work more than 40 hours. Commercial consulting is like 60, 80 hours a week versus government consulting is like 40 hours and that's it. So I think it's not bad to have your options laid out, but honestly, it depends on your timing as well, because I know certain companies just want to answer within like a certain amount of days and they're not willing to budge. So I think you just have to gauge And in terms of prayer, yeah, keep on praying, and then I think hopefully you can discern that whatever job that you take first, but just know that your first, even if you take a first job offer and you find out you're not satisfied with it, like don't be like too discouraged because you have like what 40 plus more years of working, and there's a lot more companies that you can find. So I'm not sure if that was helpful, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess part of what Keelan was saying is just trying to directly identify the metrics that you're saying that one job is better, or in your case, like you're saying, like, is it being greedy? So if you think that a better job can come down the road, I think it's helpful to clearly identify what makes that job better. And I think for that, you should talk to someone older as well and say, I perceive this other job to be better. And if that, at the end of the day, if like maybe that's only a salary, then I would think that older alums would also give you some advice that salary isn't everything in a job as well. And I think that can be kind of more clarifying as you try to make that decision to have a more full picture about what job is going to actually be best for you. And I think I personally like thought too much about the salary more than other things, like even location, right? Like if you think that a 45-minute commute is doable, it might be doable for 2 months, but you know, maybe talking to someone older who's been through that, they'll tell you that it gets tiring and repetitive. So that doesn't answer your question to like when do you know when to pull the trigger, but I think that at least helps in general as you go through interviewing and job processing, like to better rank or prioritize the jobs that you have in a bigger picture rather than just salary or benefits.
We're gonna maybe other questions. Thank you for that question, Lindsay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Anybody else? These are good stuff, right? Very practical. Okay, Mr. Jerry. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of building off of Lindsay's question. What are your stances on reneging offers? I don't know. So reneging is like usually like when you sign an offer with a company, but later due to receiving a more preferable offer from another company or whatever, that would be breaking the terms of the first contract that you signed. I don't know how often you have, I mean, I think from what I've heard from you guys, you took the first offer that you were offered. But what are your stances on that? Because I do know it's quite prevalent, especially in CS and software engineering, for people to do this. So, yeah.
So it does happen a lot, especially in IT. But that is one way to burn bridges to a company. And I know, like in one of my projects, we had a developer sign on, but then quit like a couple weeks later. And I heard from upper management that he just burned that bridge. And especially within this DC Nova area, smaller than you think, a lot of people, recruiters actually like know each other from different companies. And so word might get around. So you will have to, yeah, be careful in that kind of decision making. If you want to do that, you'll have to have a really good reason for it, because, like I mentioned, you might be burning bridges to recruiters and companies, especially like smaller mid-sized companies. They all know each other, especially in the same expertise area. Bigger companies, maybe not, maybe not so, but yeah.
And as Christ followers, we should definitely put weight into what we say and follow through to the best of our ability. There are, of course, exceptions to exceptions, like genuine, legitimate, like medical issues or some family emergency and some other things that are keeping you from following through those promises. But contract is a contract, right? So, and then that's something that needs to be done. And if you have a good relationship with those people, sometimes you can talk to them about the issues, and then sometimes you can come out in a better way instead of this. Yeah, but many people do. Yeah, that's right. Let's go to that was a good question. Things that we run into. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay, Christian, go ahead.
So with the busyness of like work, like the repetitiveness of the schedule, how do you guys find rest?
So I've been working for 4.5 years now. It wore me down. I'm used to the grind now, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 1 hour commute both ways. But how I find rest, yeah, it's just through going to church, being renewed and restored with community, having brothers to meet up with, and yeah, and just living life through community, finding a physical rest. You need physical rest, just rest. Just don't go out on the weekends. Just rest. But yeah, I think spiritually, just especially when you're working, it's gonna do life. Like life's gonna get a lot more complicated after you graduate. Like you have bills to pay, you have taxes to pay, like property tax. Like I didn't really have to pay like every year like car tax. I was like, okay, that's cool. You have to pay for your own like health insurance, vision insurance, nothing like all that. But besides that, like I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
Life gets complicated. You can lean on me, okay? Continue that.
So I think, yeah, like you're gonna get bombarded with a lot of things, but just finding that rest and renewal on your Sundays, your Bible studies, just you guys use the phrase like living life together, like finding through the race together. That really comes into fruition. You find your core group of friends and just find rest in like your friends and church.
Yeah, I feel like this is a hard question for me because it's actually one of the biggest struggles I'm going through right now. But one thing that I've been thinking about recently is on my calendar I have like my scheduled events for every day throughout the week, but I don't schedule in time for rest. And why is that, right? So I think even as college students, you guys can start to do that. For me, I don't literally put in like in my calendar like me time or something like that. But like the way that it looks for me is I like watching Premier League soccer, so like English soccer, and that's usually on Saturday mornings. So I know that on Saturday morning, just generally every Saturday, I'll watch that by myself in my basement. But that's honestly the most restful time that I have in my entire week is watching soccer, just literally doing nothing other than that. And because I know that that happens every week, that's just a recurring kind of slot of my time that I know that I can at least have that 2 hours to myself and just enjoy that for what that is.
So I would say two things personally. One is physical exercise. I know that's not necessarily rest, but after kind of going through a strenuous day of like stress, mental stress, emotional stress, you need a physical way to get that out. Exercise is almost 100% proven to help every single individual in this room, whether that's a walk. One of my favorite hobbies is a walk. You can ask anybody in my class. I used to post on our class page, anyone want to go on a walk with me? Usually only one person would answer, the same person. Got to know that person pretty well. Go on walks, do exercises. I signed up with a trainer. I did hot yoga. Put yourself out there. Once you're working, yes, like, you know, you're a steward of your money, but also some of that needs to be self-care. Personally, that's what I think. But most importantly, when the Bible says in Proverbs to guard your heart, I had to think about that a lot. Where does it start with guarding my heart? And what I realized was when I'm at work, I think a lot. I think a lot, and I have a lot of time to think. I have a lot of time to think when people talk to me. And, you know, they say toddlers, when you say something, they soak it in like a sponge. Well, in reality, you guys are college students. We're all still relatively young. And we still kind of listen to some things and allow it into our mind more than we know. When you hear things, when you hear what the world says, when you hear what's on the radio, when you hear politics, whatever it is, something's gonna stress you out every day. And at the end of the day, if you can say, God, you know, like you are my counselor, you are the one to clear my mind, clear my thoughts. Lord, help me to restart right now, this time with you. You know, because for me, it's not, you know, after work then I can have time with God. It's constantly, every single second of my life. God, I need help. God, I need help. God, what do you think? What should I think right now? So honestly, knowing that God is my reassurance in my thoughts is always the biggest way I can allow my heart to rest, my mind to rest. And then, when you do physical exercise, and kind of like what Keelan said too, like meeting with your friends is extremely important, but meeting with your friends who are also rooted in the Word, who are also rooted in prayer, will always encourage you. And you'll be able to empathize with each other. Empathizing is a huge thing. Like, I had a hard day at work. Oh, how long is your commute? An hour and a half. Oh, dude, mine too. What's so hard about it? All these things. You guys talk it out, and you realize there's a lot of good things that can come out of that conversation. So, I guess long story short, a lot of it's exercise personally, and it's always good to get some oxygen in your blood, and then get that time with God, but really solidify that, make it personal, keep it personal.
Yeah, I think it all starts with what your definition of rest looks like. Because I think everyone everyone is wired differently, so rest can look in different ways. Rest can actually be meeting up with someone that is a close friend, and that can be restful. That's one way of rest. It could be having to be by yourself and really just have that time for you. It really looks different, and it can look different on a week-to-week basis. But kind of what everyone said, God gave you a body, mind, and soul, and so all three. It's crazy how all three are important. Because I think even when I was reading, praying, I was